Before we begin, take a moment to get comfortable. Let your arms go heavy, your breath slow. And as you listen, feel free to leave a comment sharing what time it is, where you are, and what city or village you're listening from. It's love to know. And if you'd like more quiet stories like this one, don't forget to subscribe so they gently appear when you need them most. Now, let's begin. You've always been told that time moves forward. Like water down a stream, it flows, steady, certain, and unstoppable. You mark it in seconds, in minutes, in days, in years. It ticks beside you, follows you to sleep, wakes you with alarm. But now, close your eyes for a moment. Let the idea of time soften. Let it become less like a river and more like a fabric. Something woven, stretched across the space around you. Imagine lying in bed as you are now, with your head resting softly against a pillow. You feel still. You feel here. But everything that made this moment, this exact one, was once somewhere else. A star exploded billions of years ago, so your bones could have calcium. A plant drank sunlight, so your body could one day breathe. The molecules of your blood are ancient, okay? And yet, this moment feels new. We speak of the past like it is behind us, and the future like it's a distant place we walk toward. But physics doesn't see it that way. In the deepest corners of science, the laws that govern the universe don't mind which way time flows. The equations work forward, and they work in reverse. So what is time, really? It's tempting to say time is change, that it's motion. Earth spins, seasons shift, clocks tick, and we age. But time itself isn't change. It's the structure that change moves through. Time is what allows a seed to become a tree. It's what lets a thought become a word, and a word become a memory. Still, the more scientists try to define it, the stranger it becomes. The more we observe time, the more it slips sideways through. Understanding doesn't behave the way we expect. Not in the lab, not in space, and not in the mind. You've been taught to imagine a timeline, a neat little line. Past on the left, future on the right. But this is a story we invented to make sense of a mystery. Because when you zoom out far enough, when you look with Einstein's eyes, or with the stillness of a physicist's thought, time looks less like a line, and more like a landscape, a terrain of moments, all existing, all present, all equally real. It's called the block universe. A way of seeing time not as something that flows, but as something already there. Like a book with every page written, but you, the reader, can only see one page at a time. You aren't moving through time. You are part of time. You don't ride a current. You inhabit a frame. And yet, the illusion of movement is so strong. You feel the forward motion. You wake, you grow, you age, you change. Each morning greets you with a new arrangement of light, of emotion, of memory. That's the magic and the puzzle. Because your brain was built to feel time as a rhythm. The heartbeat, the breath, the rising and setting of the sun. These patterns make time feel real, but they're only markers, not the thing itself. In Einstein's theory of relativity, time is not separate from space, okay? They are one. A single fabric, bending and flexing around mass in motion. A heavy planet warps time. A fast spaceship stretches it. Even your body, lying still, bends time ever so slightly. You don't notice it, but it's there. And if time can stretch, okay, maybe it can fold. Not just in science fiction, but in the math. Real physics allows for curves in the timeline. 4 loops, 4 bends, 4 ripples in the flow. What if a moment isn't just what you see now? What if it carries echoes from before, okay, and hints of what's to come? You felt it, haven't you? Those déjà vu moments, it's a sense that something is happening again, even when it hasn't. The dreams that feel like memories from a future, not yet lived. The pause before a choice, where time itself seems to hesitate. Maybe those moments aren't just imagination. Maybe they're signs that time is not what you thought. Picture a sheet hanging on a clothesline. Now, press your finger into it gently from the back. The fabric bulges. It distorts. It curves. That's what mass does to time. That's what gravity does. Now, imagine folding that fabric just a little. So two moments, once far apart, are suddenly close. Could that explain why sometimes you feel a connection between now and then? Could time be shaped not by its direction, but by what it touches? The universe doesn't see time the way you do. It doesn't slice it into seconds or hours, and it doesn't name birthdays or anniversaries. It simply holds everything that ever was and ever will be in one immense, timeless breath. Still, you live your life by the tick of the clock. You schedule, you measure. And there's beauty in that too, because even if time is strange, it still cradles your life. It still gives shape to your days. The past comforts, the future inspires, and in this present moment, this single pause, you are not behind or ahead. You are precisely where the universe folds to make room for you as you begin this journey through the deeper shapes of time. Let your thoughts slow. Let your breath steady. Let the river of time dissolve. There's a clock on your wall, maybe ticking softly, maybe digital and silent. You trust it. You glance at it without thinking. It keeps your routines, your rhythms. But have you ever wondered how universal is that time? You assume that seconds pass equally, no matter where you are, that a minute here is a minute there. But the universe has its own opinion, and it doesn't always agree with your clocks. High above you, orbiting Earth at over 14,000 kilometers per hour, are satellites. Metallic, distant, always moving, okay? And on those satellites are clocks, atomic ones, okay? Precise, beyond comprehension. They don't tick like yours. They vibrate at a rate tuned to the fundamental heartbeat of atoms. But here's the strangeness. Those clocks run faster than the ones down here on Earth. Not by a lot, just a few microseconds per day. But that difference is real, measured, predictable, constant, and essential. If we didn't account for it, your GPS wouldn't work. That soft blue dot guiding you home would drift wildly off course. You'd be in the wrong city. The system depends on understanding how time bends with gravity, because that's what's happening. Earth's gravity is stronger down here where you walk, and according to Einstein's theory of general relativity, stronger gravity slows time. So your clock, your body, your heartbeat, they all run just a little bit slower than the ones floating high above. It's not your imagination. It's not metaphor. It's physics. Time ticks faster in the lofted quiet of orbit, and slower here, closer to Earth's steep pull. The planet is stretching the fabric of time itself. You don't notice it, of course. Its difference is tiny, but real. If you lived long enough in orbit, in a low-gravity environment, you would age ever so slightly faster than your twin down below. A day here, a day there, a few milliseconds gained, like forgotten change in your pocket. What's extraordinary is not just that time shifts, it's that we've measured it. In 1971, scientists flew precise atomic clocks around the world on commercial airplanes. When the clocks returned, they were compared to identical ones that had stayed on the ground. The results matched Einstein's predictions. Those that had moved had ticked differently. It's called gravitational time dilation, and it's not science fiction. It's built into the systems you use every day. Every time your phone shows you a location, every time satellites synchronize, they whisper through a universe where time bends, warps, flexes, depending on where you are and how fast you're going. The faster you move, the more your time slows. The farther you are from gravity, the more it speeds up. It's as if time itself breathes, expanding and contracting like lungs around the stars. Here's a thought. If you could climb a very tall tower high enough that gravity becomes just slightly weaker, you'd experience time a little faster. Not enough to notice, but enough that your clock would get ahead. Just a hair. Over years, it would matter. Time depends on location, and that means so do you. Not your thoughts or memories, perhaps, but the time that holds you, that paces you, isn't fixed. It dances with the earth, with motion, with the silent weight of mountains, with the slow breath of orbiting machines. In the 21st century, we've grown used to precision. We want our seconds exact, our minutes synchronized. But the universe reminds us, there is no single perfect clock. There is only context, only position, only relativity. Your heart may beat at a steady pace, but its rhythm is shaped by where you stand in the cosmos. And this idea, this gentle tug on time, opens a door. Because if time isn't constant, then maybe it can be shaped, slowed, stretched, folded. You've begun to see how location bends the clock. Okay. Next comes an even stranger truth. What if gravity itself pulls on time like a tide, softly, constantly, beneath your every step? You wake up in your bed, still and warm. Above you, the ceiling doesn't move. Outside, the sky is quiet, yet always shifting. You feel time passing gently, steadily. But underneath it all, gravity is bending every second. You feel gravity isn't just a force pulling you down. It's a sculptor of time itself. Its curved space stretches light and slows the beat of every clock it touches, even yours. When you stand on the surface of Earth, you are closer to its core. Here, gravity is slightly stronger than it would be one floor up. Here, time moves just a little bit slower. You don't feel it, you don't see it. But the clock in your basement ticks more slowly than the one on your roof. The effect is impossibly small, mere billions of a second across a few meters. Yet, scientists have measured it, not just in theory, but in practice, with atomic clocks, so precise they lose less than a second every 100 million years. We've watched time bend floor by floor, hill by hill. Einstein predicted this in his theory of general relativity. He said, gravity and time are entangled, that where gravity is strong, time stretches thin. That mass, any mass, pulls not only on your body, but on the moment itself. Imagine placing a heavy ball on a trampoline. The surface bends, warps. Now roll a marble near the dent. It curves, spirals, drawn in. This is space near a massive object. This is how gravity curves the world. And as space curves, so does time. Time is not a backdrop. It is elastic. It responds. Imagine walking toward a mountain. As you climb, gravity ever so slightly weakens. And with it, time subtly lifts its pace. By the time you reach the summit, you've aged a little more than the forest below. You've become a time traveler. An MICROSECONDS. This bending of time becomes dramatic around extreme objects. Black holes, for instance, those collapsed stars whose gravity is so intense, not even light can escape. Their time nearly stops. Get too close to the event horizon, the point of no return, and every second stretches, possibly long. To an outside observer, you appear frozen. Your fall takes forever. To you, it's just a blink. This isn't fiction, it's physics. We've seen the light from stars slow and stretch near massive objects. We've watched how time bends when it passes a galaxy. Gravitational lensing, they call it, but it could just as well be called time's mirror. Your life here on Earth is lived inside a gentle well. The planet holds you close, not just with its pull, but with its soft warping of time. Every tree, every hill, every valley holds its own slight version of the moment. Time passes differently at sea level than it does on a plane, on Everest. You age faster than in the Dead Sea Basin. Tiny differences, but they tell a profound truth. There is no universal clock. No one now that stretches across the cosmos like a blanket. There are only local moments, curved by gravity, shaped by space, Time is personal. Time is place, and the more massive the place, the deeper the gravity, the slower the tick. This explains more than the behavior of stars. It offers a new way to feel your own experience. Have you ever noticed how heavy moments feel longer? How grief slows you down? How sorrow bends time? It's not physics, not precisely, but your body knows something about the weight of a moment. How emotion can become gravity, okay? How pain can warp perception. You carry a small gravity within you. Your heart is a mass that shapes your own time. And perhaps, just perhaps, that's why time feels different when you are still. When you lie down, breathing softly, your body anchored to the earth. Time drips, not flows. Hushes, as if gravity and rest conspire to slow the world around you. Some physicists believe this may have implications far beyond GPS and satellites. If gravity can bend time, then time as we know it is never fixed. It is always in motion, always being shaped. And if the rules change near a black hole, could they change elsewhere? Could you find a place, a position, a motion, where time unfurls differently? Oh, where the clock, like a ribbon, loosens in your hands. Or perhaps, more quietly, the lesson is this. Even here, in your chair, your room, gravity touches your seconds. You do not live in a void. You live inside a moment that is curved, held, shaped. And that's where we'll go next, to see how motion itself, not just a mass, can stretch your life, ever so gently, into something longer. What happens when you start to move faster? You begin your morning the same way most do, with a breath, a blink, a glance at the clock. The numbers change, steady and confident, and you trust them. You assume time is ticking, the same for everyone, everywhere. But it isn't. Out there, above the clouds, beyond the curve of the planet, something curious is happening. A satellite circles the Earth. It moves fast, much faster than any car or plane. And because of that motion, its time runs slow, not by much, microseconds, yet enough that your phone's GPS needs to correct for it. Enough that Einstein was right again. When you move quickly through space, you move slowly through time. It's not a metaphor. It's not a dream. It's reality, confirmed, measured, used every day in technology you take for granted. This is time dilation. The faster you travel, the more time stretches for you. To an outside observer, you are moving through time at a slower pace. Your seconds take longer. Your heartbeat ticks just a little behind at walking speed. The effect is negligible. You and the person beside you share nearly the same slice of time. But as your speed grows, as you board a jet, circle the Earth, or one day perhaps launch into orbit, the difference begins to matter. On long flights, atomic clocks tick ever so slightly behind. It's astronauts aboard the International Space Station age just a little bit less than those of us here on Earth. Not enough to notice, but enough to prove the point. Motion bends time, not just gravity, but motion itself. If you could fly near the speed of light, perhaps aboard a starship of the far future, the world outside would blur. A day for you might be years for those you left behind. You would return younger. You would be the time traveler. This idea, so strange, so beautiful, is not science fiction. It is built into the math of special relativity. It has been tested, confirmed. You are not fixed inside time. You are stretched by motion. But what does that mean for your daily life? Your quiet, soft days here on Earth? Perhaps nothing, okay? Perhaps everything. Think of how you move through your world. Are your days fast, rushed, filled with tasks, footsteps, schedules? Do you run so quickly you lose track of where you are? In physics, motion slows time. But in life, sometimes the opposite feels true. The faster you go, the faster the day disappears. A blur of minutes, gone before you could touch them. And yet, beneath it all, the truth of relativity hums softly. Even your motion carries time like a loose ribbon. Even a walk, a run, a ride through the countryside is a journey through slightly different time than if you'd stayed still. You are always stretching time just by being alive. Imagine a spacecraft, silent in the dark. It drifts near the speed of light. Its pilot watches the stars slide past, motionless in her calm. And yet, outside her window, centuries pass. Whole civilizations rise and fall before she finishes her tea. It's a fantasy, but it's also a blueprint for how the universe truly works. Light itself is timeless. For a photon, a particle of light, no time passes at all between emission and absorption. It is born and extinguished in the same breath. It moves through all of space, but from its perspective, no time has passed. Motion has erased time entirely. And here you are, somewhere between stillness and light, between the grounded earth and the flicker of stars. You move, and time bends, just a little, but enough to remind you, you are not fixed. Your seconds are soft. Your life, elastic. Maybe that's why certain moments feel longer. The slow walk beside someone you love. The long drive through a quiet desert. The rhythm of a train ride with nowhere to be. These are moments where motion stretches you. The body moves, but the mind floats, where seconds feel wide and memory settles gently. You're already living time dilation, not in grand equations, but in the texture of your days. And in this, there's comfort, because if motion changes time, then your path matters, not just where you go, but how fast, how soft, how attentively. A hurried life may rush through minutes, but it does not stretch them. A mindful walk might. You don't need to reach the speed of light. You only need to listen to how you move. Now, imagine the stars again. A traveler leaves Earth at great speed. She loops around a neutron star, slingshots through the gravity of Jupiter, and returns, years later, younger than her twin. This is the twin paradox, a thought experiment, and a real prediction of physics. It's been tested. 2 smaller degrees in particle accelerators and satellites. Time changes with speed. Time is not what you thought. And you are not stuck. You are drifting, always. The Earth spins. That's motion. It orbits the sun. More motion. The sun dances through the galaxy. You are never still. And so, your time is always shifting, slightly, gently. What would your life look like if you thought of time this way? Not as a rigid line, but a ribbon that bends with your movement. Would you move slower? Would you walk more often? Would you choose paths that feel wide? Or would you find ways, even in stillness, to stretch your seconds, to soften your hours? Motion, after all, isn't only physical. You move through thought, through breath, through change. And so, the next time you look at a clock, remember it. It's not telling you everything. It's only measuring one version of time, your own motion. Your own experience is quietly shaping another. And next, we'll travel into loops, into spirals of time, where motion isn't forward or back, but folded in on itself. What would it mean if time curved, not ahead, but around? You imagine a loop as something simple, closed circle, an orbit, a ring, a path that brings you back to the beginning. But time, like everything else in the universe, resists being too tidy. If time were ever to loop, it would not be like a racetrack. It would not whistle in neat curves or fold in predictable rounds. It would ripple, slowly, strangely, like steam curling around the edge of a cup, like memory revisiting itself without asking permission. Time loops are not science fiction. They are allowed hidden gently inside Einstein's equations, not encouraged, not forbidden. These loops go by a technical name, closed time-like curves, a phrase that sounds like a riddle. And maybe it is, in a space-time with the right shape, one twisted by immense gravity, or folded by rotation. A path could, in theory, lead you back to your own past, you would never notice the loop starting. You would just walk forward and find yourself again. Imagine a road that bends so gently you don't realize it curves. You walk for hours, believing you're heading somewhere new, until the trees begin to look familiar, till the footsteps ahead of you match your own. Now, imagine time that does the same. In 1949, the mathematician Kurt Gödel, known for his incompleteness theorems, found something strange in general relativity. He discovered that a rotating universe, in theory, could allow for time loops. He wasn't claiming we lived in one. It's just that, according to the math, it was possible. Space could bend so extremely, so continuously, that a path through it would return you to your starting point in time. It is dizzying to think about. You might begin your walk on a Tuesday, and by the end, be back on Monday, with all your memories still intact. A future self brushing against the elbow of a younger one. Sentence spoken twice. A candle blown out before it was ever lit. Science does not say this will happen, only that it could. It does not require a glowing blue portal, nor a ticking machine. Space and gravity and time willing to bend. One famous solution, the tipless cylinder, describes an infinitely long, spinning object. If you orbited it in the right way, you might trace a loop through time itself, but infinite objects don't exist. In building a spinning structure out of collapsed stars is not in our plans, not yet. Still, the idea lingers. It lingers in wormholes too, to those theoretical bridges through space-time, tunnels between distant points, or maybe distant moments. Wormholes are like secret folds in the paper of the cosmos. Fold a page just right, and two faraway points touch. Step through the hole, and you skip the distance. And if one mouth of the wormhole moves faster than the other, say, pulled on a spaceship at near light speed, the clock at each end begins to drift. You create not just a shortcut in space, but a wrinkle in time. Travel through the wormhole, and you might emerge in the past. Not your past, but the past of the place you left behind. This is the stuff of theories, okay? Yes, but not the impossible kind. Physicists have built models, equations, simulations. None say it must happen, but none say it can't. And in science, that space between impossible and necessary is where wonder lives. You may never build a time machine, but you are already a part of a universe where time might not be as straight as it seems. Your own brain plays with loops all the time. Memory is a kind of loop. It's a mental walk backward. You recall the scent of a room, the shape of a voice, the weight of an afternoon sun years ago. You do not just remember, you relive. And sometimes you reimagine. You change a detail. Color becomes warmer. The pain softens. The moment loops and shifts. Your emotions follow suit. You grieve something already grieved. You celebrate something already past. You visit again and again the moments that shaped you inside your mind. Closed time-like curves are alive and well. In dreams, too, you experience loops. Moments that circle, change, and reset. You wake, then dream again inside the same place. You try to leave and return to the start. These loops are not real physically, but they feel real. And that feeling matters, because feelings are how we experience time. There is a loop in a ritual, a loop in a lullaby, a loop in the orbit of grief, which comes around just as you've moved on. Life is full of soft returns, and so you begin to ask, what kind of moment would you revisit if the door opened? Would it be joyful? Would it be unfinished? Would you say something you never got to say? Or would you simply stand still, okay, and watch that moment unfold again without needing to change it? Because perhaps loops are not meant for correction. Perhaps they are meant for observation, for reverence. A loop that isn't a circle might be a spiral, repeating, yes, but never in quite the same way, like the orbit of a planet around a dying sun, like the rhythm of a tide with a shifting moon. You return, but not as the same person. You re-enter the moment as someone older, softer, wiser. The loop is not a trap. It's a second chance to understand in quantum physics. Time loops appear too. Some theories, like the Feynman path integral, suggest particles explore all possible paths between 2 points in space and time, not just straight lines, but curves, spirals, loops. The particle moves backward and forward through every timeline until it finds the one that matches reality. Reality, then, is a kind of agreement, a vote of all the paths time could have taken. This is the one that holds, but somewhere in the equations, the loops remain, even if you don't see them. Even if you don't remember, you are made of particles that may have looped. You are held together by rules that allow the past to echo, and so you live a life where every step forward might contain a soft return. Sometimes you feel it, a sudden memory, unprovoked, déjà vu, as if you've already walked this hallway, already opened this door. You can't explain it, but it lingers, like time, folding. So the next time you feel yourself repeating a habit, conversation, a longing ask, is this a trap or a spiral? And if you knew time could bend, if you knew it could ripple, would you rush? What? You sit still and feel the edges of the loop begin to hum, because some loops aren't prisons. They are invitations to stay, to witness, to be part of a pattern larger than any single moment. And perhaps, as you rest, as you breathe, the loop continues without you, carrying your thought gently into the next curve of time, where something stirs, not behind you, but ahead, where cause and effect might blur, and the next chapter waits patiently, echoing backward, just enough to be heard, to be heard. You're taught that the arrow of time points forward, that a cause comes before its effect, okay? That seeds lead to trees, not the other way around. That you make a decision, and only then do consequences appear. But what if some part of the world doesn't follow this script? What if, at the smallest levels of nature, deep in the fabric of light and energy, effects sometimes arrive before their causes? It sounds impossible, and yet, in the mathematics of quantum physics, time isn't always so strict. There's a theory, delicate, debated, called retrocality. It suggests that under certain conditions, future events might reach backward, gently touching the present, not rewriting it, but influencing it, whispering to it, like the memory of something that hasn't happened yet. It is strange, yes, but the quantum world is always strange. Particles exist in states of probability. They don't settle into one truth until they are observed, until a choice is made. But what determines that choice? Is it purely random, or could it be guided from ahead? Imagine you're walking in the fog. You can't see far, but somehow your feet avoid the puddles. Your body leans subtly toward the path that's safest before you consciously know where it leads. That's what retrocausality proposes, that some information from the future slips back and helps shape the now. In 2012, this experiment shook this idea awake again. It was called the Delayed Choice Quantum Eraser. Its particles of light photons were sent through a series of slits and detectors, depending on how they were measured. They behaved either like particles or like waves. That's not the strange part. The strange part is this. The decision of how to measure them was made after they had already passed through the slits, and somehow the particles behaved as if they already knew what kind of measurement was coming. It's as if the photon had access to the future and adjusted its past behavior to match. This doesn't mean the future changed the past in a dramatic storybook way. There were no time machines, no paradoxes, but it means the boundary between past and future is softer than it seems. You might call it spooky or poetic. Physics calls it non-local correlation, a gentle web of connection that stretches across time as well as space. And in that web, the thread of tomorrow can pluck a note that you feel today. This is not science fiction. This is real experimentation, real equations. Though physicists debate what it means, few deny that it happens. Some interpretations say it's just math, no real retrocausality. Others say the past and future are linked in a dance we don't yet understand. You are used to thinking of yourself as shaped only by what came before. Your childhood, your choices, your memories. But what if part of who you are is also shaped by what hasn't happened yet? Not because you can predict the future, not because you know it, but because, in some quiet, quantum way, it already knows you. Think of your instincts. The way you sometimes feel something coming, not in words, not in thought, but in a gentle inner leaning. You turn left instead of right, for no reason. You pause at the door and miss something that might have happened. You feel drawn to a stranger and only later discover why. Science calls it coincidence, and often it is. But there is space, just a sliver, where it might also be an echo, not of the past, but of what's still arriving. In biology, anticipation is everywhere. Seeds know when to sprout. Animals sense when storms approach. Cells begin repairing damage before it fully arrives. And in the body, your body, there are rhythms you don't control. Your heart adjusts before you climb the stairs. Your breath slows before you fall asleep. Your brain begins firing in patterns before you even choose a word to speak. These are not retrocausality, but they remind you that time inside you moves with its own grace. And sometimes that grace feels like a whisper from ahead. Memory and imagination are two sides of the same mind. One looks back, one looks forward. The brain uses the same circuits for both, which means that when you remember something, you also reshape it. And when you imagine something, you draw on your past to do it, so your future is not separate from your memory. It is entangled. What if, in your quietest moments, you are not remembering or imagining, but listening? Listening to a signal that has not yet arrived in full. Retrocausality may never be proven in a way that changes your daily life. It may always remain a ghost of mathematics, a poetry of physics, but there is comfort in knowing the future is not hostile, not empty, not fixed. It may be that the future is already holding space for you, not demanding, just offering a destination that calls you the way a star calls a planet, not by force, but by gravity. And maybe your choices today are not just reactions to the past, but alignments with what's to come. You walk not by map, but by resonance, a feeling, a soft pull, a path that opens only as you step, like the photon that knows its destination before the mirror is even in place, like the note in a song that begins to vibrate just before it's played. This chapter ends not with answers, but with a gentle turning of the head. You don't need to chase the future. You only need to pause and feel whether the air is already changing. And perhaps, in the silence, you'll hear something faint, an echo, not from where you've been, but from where you're going. You often think of your life as a line. One moment leads to the next. You are born, you grow, you age, you end. A beginning, a middle, and an after. But what if time doesn't truly work that way? What if you are not riding a river of time, but resting, always, in one quiet place within it? This is the strange, still idea behind what physicists call the block universe. It is not a theory of time as a stream, but time as a whole. Not flowing, but folded. Not moving, but mapped. A universe where everything that happens has already happened and always will. Imagine holding a book in your hand. Its pages are numbered, filled with ink. You may only read one line at a time, but every sentence is already there. It's the beginning, the ending, even the parts you haven't reached. Yet, you are not writing the story. You are experiencing it line by line. But the story already exists. This is the block universe. In this view, the past is not gone. The future is not waiting. They are both there, just like the pages before and after the one you're on. From your perspective, you can only feel now your breath, your heartbeat, the gentle glow of the present moment. But to the universe itself, to the math behind it, there is no real now. All moments are equally real, equally fixed, equally present. It's called a static space-time, a four-dimensional block where space and time are one structure. In this block, you do not move through time. You are your position in it. Always your first steps, your last words, your quietest sigh, all of them, somewhere in the block, forever. This might sound unsettling, like fate is locked, like choice is gone, but sit with it for a moment, because it's not about fate, it's about permanence. Every kindness you've ever shown still exists not as memory, but as structure. Every time you laughed, someone loved, someone healed. Those moments are not lost. They are woven into the very shape of time. And you, this version of you, right now, you are not fleeting. You are eternal within your coordinates. You do not vanish when the moment passes. You remain, and in this way, you belong to the fabric of the cosmos as deeply as any star. Physics doesn't care much about beginnings or ends. Its equations don't prefer forward to backward. Okay, they simply describe relations, how one state becomes another. But whether that's past to future or future to past makes no difference to the math. This is called time symmetry, and it means that the laws of nature don't play favorites with direction. So what makes time feel like it flows? That's a question of consciousness, not of clocks, not of stars, but of minds. Your experience of time is shaped by your memory, by how much order is lost as moments pass. By the way, you remember the past, but not the future. You are the one who flows, not time. You are the needle through the record, but the record is whole before the music begins and after it ends. In this way, the block universe offers not control, but comfort, because you don't need to chase your future. You don't need to fear what's lost. Every part of you has its place. Always, when a loved one dies, their presence doesn't vanish. In the block universe, they still exist on their page. That moment when they smiled, when they held your hand, when they whispered, "I'm proud of you," it hasn't been erased. It hasn't moved on. It is part of the structure, and so is your grief, your growth, your goodbye, all real, all permanent, all waiting in the block. You can't travel there. Not yet, maybe never, but just knowing those moments still are, may soften the ache of time's passing. Einstein himself once wrote, "To the family of a friend who had died, for us believing physicists, the distinction between past, present, and future is only a stubbornly persistent illusion." He did not mean to erase feeling. He meant to honor it, to show that love, too, lives in the fabric of space-time. You may wonder if the future already exists. What becomes a choice? Do you still decide? Does your will matter? And the answer is subtle, but yes, because in the block universe, your choices are part of the block. They are not predicted by the future. They are the future. Your choices don't cause the future. They are the future. They are the page you're on. So even if the story is written, you are not powerless. You are still the reader, still the participant, still the voice in the story who feels each word as if it's new. You are the awareness moving through the block, and perhaps that's what consciousness is, a way for the universe to experience itself, one breath at a time. So, what can this view teach you as you lie down and drift into sleep? It can teach you to stop grasping, to stop fearing the lost or chasing the not yet, because everything that matters has its place already. You don't have to remember perfectly. You don't have to plan endlessly. You don't have to make every moment count. The moments already do. All of them, even this one, where you listen, where you rest, where your chest rises and falls with a rhythm older than stars. In this stillness, you do not need to move forward. You are already where you need to be. Time is not a corridor, but a cathedral. Every point, a room. Every instant, a window. And you are the light shining quietly through. Perhaps the question is not, how do I reach the future? But rather, how do I feel more deeply the place I already am? And from here, from this quiet perch in a space-time that holds you gently, you may begin to wonder, if all moments exist, then what does it mean to change? Change. You've heard the story before. A traveler steps into the past. They meet their grandfather before their parent is born. In a moment of chance or intention, they prevent him from having children, and suddenly, the traveler shouldn't exist. But they do. This is the grandfather paradox, a knot tied into the idea of time travel, a loop that seems to break itself, a question that ends in silence. How can something cause its own erasure? And how can the erasure cause the cause? But the universe, strange and complex as it is, may not be so fragile. Paradoxes, after all, are not always problems. Sometimes they are signs that our understanding is still unfolding. What if time, instead of breaking, bends gently around contradiction? In physics, there are solutions. Not final answers, but pathways that let paradox breathe. One idea is the Novikov self-consistency principle. It whispers that you can go back, but only if what you do was always going to happen. In this view, you cannot kill your grandfather because you didn't. You exist, and therefore, whatever you did back then already includes your presence. You may try to act freely, to change events, but every action will twist itself into alignment with what already is, like a river that always finds its way to the sea. There's a quiet elegance to it. The past doesn't fight you. It absorbs you. If you drop a stone in a still pond, you can't remove the ripples. But you can notice how they weave into each other, how each one softens with distance, never undoing, only merging. The universe, it seems, prefers continuity, even when it loops and loops. Those gentle spirals of causality are not just fiction in theoretical physics. We find closed time-like curves, possible paths through space-time that circle back to their own beginning. They are permitted by Einstein's equations under certain conditions: exotic matter, high rotation, a cosmic geometry we've never built, but cannot rule out. In such a loop, a particle might meet its past self. A moment might fold into itself, like a ribbon tucked in a drawer. But again, paradoxes do not erupt. They dissolve, because what happens is what must have always happened. This doesn't mean life is scripted. It means life is consistent, and maybe, in its own strange way, kind. There's a metaphor here for the stories you carry. Think of a memory that aches, a choice you regret, a word you wish you could unspeak. You revisit it often, in dreams, in silence, in thought, as if, in returning, you might smooth the wrinkle, do the fold, rewrite the scene, and yet, each time you go back, you arrive with who you are now, a different self, a wiser one, perhaps. And you don't erase the past, you understand it, you change your place in it, like a traveler who can't stop the rain, that once fell but can choose, this time, to walk through it without hiding. Time loops are like that. Not corrections, integrations, not battles against what was, but the soft healing of how it lives inside you. In quantum mechanics, some interpretations even allow for a particle to influence its own history in subtle ways. No explosions or contradictions, just a gentle coherence between what is and what will be. Some scientists call it post-selection, the idea that certain outcomes are favored not just by the past, but by the future as well. It's as if the universe prefers stories that make sense when read forward and backward. And maybe, deep down, so do you. You want to be whole, to have your choices line up with your values, to see your past not as a fracture, but as a foundation. Paradoxes challenge that, but in resolving them, you may discover that your story is more than a straight line. It is a loop that doesn't strangle, but softens, rounds, returns, and when it returns, it brings a gift, perspective. You see now what you couldn't see then. You understand now what was confusing then. And that understanding changes everything without changing a thing, even without time travel. You live in loops, you repeat habits, you revisit emotions, you fall into cycles, sometimes painful, sometimes beautiful, but always offering a new chance to resolve, to step into the spiral, not as a prisoner, but as a dancer. So imagine tonight, that time is not a race, but a ribbon. In your life is the hand that holds it. You trace its curves, you notice its folds, and in each turn you find not a trap, but a teaching, not a paradox, but a smile. You may not get to travel back in the literal sense, but every memory, every reflection, every long stare into the past is its own kind of loop, and in those loops you do not vanish. You arrive again and again with more compassion than the last time. So maybe the question isn't, what if I could go back and change things? But rather, what if going back is how I change myself? Can, as you rest, as your breath softens and your thoughts slow, perhaps you'll feel the gentle curvature of your own timeline, not broken, but curved inward like a smile. And tomorrow, when the same pattern greets you, maybe you'll step into it with just a little more grace. You live in a world of moments, one after the other, like beads on a string. Breakfast before lunch, Monday before Tuesday. Breath after breath. It feels solid, predictable, reassuring. Time moves in a line, so do you. But beneath that certainty, under the skin of reality, something softer stirs. In the quiet layers of the quantum world, time doesn't behave the way you expect. It stutters, it branches, it bends. Here, in this microscopic theater, particles don't simply exist. They might exist in many ways all at once. It's not poetry, it's probability. This is the world of quantum mechanics. Can it in this world? Certainty is not the rule. Only likelihood is take an electron. You can't point to it with confidence. Can't say, there it is, the way you might point to a pebble on the ground. You can only say, it's probably here. It might be spinning this way. It could go left or right, okay? And until you look, until you observe, all those possibilities remain, not side by side, okay? But overlaid like shadows that haven't yet chosen a light. This is superposition. The idea that a quantum system exists in many potential states at once until it collapses into just one through interaction, through measurement, through you. So what does this have to do with time? More than you'd think, because in this uncertain world, time doesn't move like a clock's hand. It vibrates, flickers, it loops. Some physicists have found that the same rules of uncertainty that apply to particles in space can also apply to when things happen. That's right, not just where a particle is, but when it is. It might arrive before it leaves. It might influence its own path backward. It might exist in a loop that makes your linear intuition blush in some quantum models. Time is no longer a smooth runway, but a quilt stitched together from patches of maybe, of might, of almost. And within that quilt, tiny loops can form. Not like sci-fi time machines, but like folded corners of possibility. In these quantum loops, vents can fold back on themselves, not in dramatic paradoxes, but in quiet reinforcement, like a thought you almost forgot, returning to you in a dream. It's called closed time-like curves. In theory, paths through space-time that wrap inward, allowing an event to touch its own past without contradiction. It's hard to picture. Your brain wasn't built for this, but your imagination was so. Try this. Picture your life not as a line, but as a cloud. a shimmering field of possible futures, some dim and distant, some close and bright, some repeating patterns from your past you've never escaped. Now imagine moving through that cloud, not with footsteps, but with choices. Each breath, a small nudge, each decision, a branch, each thought, a wave collapsing into one path, but not the path, it's just a path. Quantum theory suggests there's not just one version of the future, there are many, and the version you land in might depend on things you can't fully measure: your state of mind, a gust of randomness, a photon bouncing just slightly off course. It sounds magical. Well, it's math. Equations, like the path integral formulation, proposed by Richard Feynman, say that a particle doesn't take just one route from A to B. It explores every possible path, even the impossible ones, and these paths interfere, cancel, and combine to produce the world you see. What if your life works the same way? What if you are always moving through an interference pattern of possible futures, shaped not by certainty, but by soft possibility? That would mean the future is not a destination, but a resonance, and you are the observer, the participant, the chooser. You don't command the outcome, but your presence changes the field. Your attention collapses the maybe into the now. In this view, time is not a prison. It's a canvas. It's not blank, but blurred. And you are not stuck on one timeline. You are simply walking the one you've walked, gently landed on. There may be loops, patterns that repeat, chances that return in slightly altered form. Have you noticed? It's the same kind of conversation with different people, the same mistake with a softer consequence, the same desire in a new disguise. These are your loops, not punishment, but invitation to try again, to move a little differently, to break the pattern or to dance within it with more grace. Because in quantum time, nothing is rigid. There is room for softness. There is room for you. So as you lie here, listening to these words, feel your body as part of the field, not separate, not stuck, but waving gently inside possibility. You are not fixed. You are fluid. And the future, whatever that means, is not waiting ahead of you. It's whispering from all sides, and somewhere, maybe just nearby, a different version of you is opening a door you haven't seen yet. Take a breath and another. Let it move in, slow, quiet, unnoticed, and out, slower still. What you're feeling now, this rhythm beneath your ribs, is not just the body breathing. It is the body measuring, because time, in all its abstractions, must pass through something to be felt. And for you, that passage is the body. You do not experience time in equations or ticking clocks. You feel it in your pulse, your breath, your quiet moments of waiting. Time, for you, is not outside, a tease. Inside this is not poetry, it's biology. Your brain has no central clock. It does not keep time like a stopwatch. Instead, it senses patterns, change, duration, from the inside out. The ticking, is built from motion, from rhythm, from the shifting states of your own awareness. Your breath lengthens, it's a minute stretch. Your heart races, and seconds flash by. Your emotions compress time or spread it wide, like fingers opening underwater. What's curious is that science has measured this too. Your perception of time is tied to your physiology, your body's internal signals. When you're anxious, time contracts. When you're calm, time unfolds. In meditation, for instance, many people describe the same sensation, that time vanishes. Not because it stops, but because it stops being tracked. There's a stillness that spreads inward, like a quiet snowfall. The past retreats, the future softens, the present grows wide, like a warm room with no doors. Neurologically, something subtle is happening. The brain's default mode network, which helps you build your sense of self and the story of time, grows quiet. Other areas take over, those tied to awareness, sensation, and the moment. You're still aware, but no longer narrating, no longer counting. no longer chasing the next moment like a shadow. And so, time, as you know it, dissolves. It's a gentle paradox. You feel most timeless when you're most still. Think of a pond when wind ripples the surface. The reflections blur. But when the water is still, the image becomes clear. It's the same with time. The faster you live, the less of it you see. The quieter you become, the more of it surrounds you. Scientists studying time perception have found that attention plays a central role. What you notice, you measure. What you ignore, you pass through like air. When your attention narrows in flow, in love, in pain, your sense of time warps. It expands, contracts, twists around your awareness like a vine. This means that time is not just something you move through. It is something you shape with your attention, with your body, with your breath. You may not control the hours, but you participate in how they feel. And that changes everything. Because if time can feel long or short, depending on how you breathe, what else can shift just by changing your rhythm? There's a growing field of research called embodied cognition. The idea that your mind is not separate from your body. That thought is not just brain activity, but movement, posture, sensation, and time too. It's part of this embodiment. You move through the world, and in that movement, you create duration. One step, then another. Each heartbeat carving a second. Each inhale a beginning. Each exhale an end. You might say that your body is a clock. But really, it's more than that. It is a lens through which time becomes real. Because without the body, there would be no rhythm. Without rhythm, no story. Without story, no time. In physics, time is a parameter. It's marked in equations, defined as a dimension used to describe change. But in your experience, time is not a number. It is a texture. It is the way afternoon light spills across the floor. It is the silence between two words. It is the warmth in your hands when you remember someone you love. This is qualitative time. Time, not as distance, but as depth. And here's the quiet miracle. You can return to this depth anytime you wish, not by escaping the world, but by noticing it, by breathing into it, by softening your focus just enough to let the moment open. Try it now. Feel your breath again, noticing the pause between inhale and exhale, the still point, the pivot. This pause is not empty. It is full of possibility, of stillness. Measured. In that pause, you are outside the story, just for a moment, not counting, not remembering, not anticipating, simply being. And in being, you touch something that physics can describe, but not explain. Something that makes time feel soft, and near, and wide. This is not illusion. It is intimacy with yourself, with your breath, with the rhythm of the world around you. Because the trees breathe too. So do the tides. So does the planet itself. And when you align your breath with these larger rhythms, you start to notice that time is not only passing, it is holding you, not like a rope, like an ocean, and the waves do not rush you. They carry you from now to now to now, always arriving, never late. So perhaps the deepest experience of time is not about knowing what time it is, but feeling that you are time, moving, beating, breathing, not as an object in it, but as a part of it. And in this realization, you rest, because suddenly there's no need to hurry. You're not falling behind. You are not missing anything. You are here, and here is all time has ever needed to be. The sky doesn't ask if it's morning or night. The stars do not blink in one direction. Only you, the observer, whisper before and after into the silence. Time feels like motion, okay? But in the quiet machinery of physics, motion doesn't care whether it's running forward or in reverse. And that's where the mystery begins. You wake up each day with the feeling that time flows from yesterday to today to tomorrow. But when you open a physics textbook, the equations greet you with a stillness you didn't expect. They are symmetrical in both space and time. They do not prefer one moment over another. They allow the past to influence the future, and just as easily the future to shape the past. It's called time symmetry, and it lives quietly inside. It's the mathematics that guide your universe. Take Newton's laws. The motion of an apple falling from a tree can be played backward like a film, okay? And the math still works. Or the equations of quantum mechanics, so elegant, so precise, courteously indifferent to direction. Schrödinger's equation tells you how a quantum system evolves over time. But whether you run it forward or backward, the math is content. The universe does not object. Even the mighty Maxwell's equations, governing electricity and magnetism, hold no preference for past or future. The fundamental rules, the deep grammar of the cosmos, are silent on time's arrow. So where, then, does that arrow come from? I do remember the past, but not the future. I does a glass fall and shatter, but never unshatter. I does the sun set and not rise in. Reverse. The answer is whispered by entropy. Entropy is the language of disorder, the gentle drift from structure to scatter. It's what makes an egg scramble or a breath mix into the room. In thermodynamics, entropy increases with time, and that increase is what gives you the sensation of flow, of direction, of change. You feel time moving because the world grows messier. That's what defines your forward. But here's the quiet tension. Entropy's direction is not a rule. It's a boundary condition. It tells you where things began. It's not what the equations demand. In other words, the laws of physics would work just fine in a universe where entropy decreased, a world where milk unspills, ashes reassemble, memories form from tomorrow. You don't live in that world, okay? But the math allows it, which means the future is not missing from the equations. It's embedded in them, balanced delicately beside the past. What would it mean if your sense of moving forward is just the way you read a still painting? Imagine holding a book, its pages closed. The story is there, all of it, beginning, middle, end. You flip through the pages, and to you, the tale unfolds. But to the book, nothing moves. This is one way physicists describe reality, the block universe, where every moment, past, present, future, is equally real, equally fixed, equally part of the whole. You are not surfing a wave of time. You are part of a structure so vast, so still, that the only motion comes from within your mind. It's unsettling and beautiful, because it means your future exists, not as a distant possibility, but as a hidden page, already written, already part of the book, and yet you don't feel it. You make choices, you change your mind, you wonder, you worry, you hope. Your experience tells you that the future is open, that anything could happen. So how can both be true? Some thinkers suggest this. What if the equations don't force the future? They merely contain it, like a path already laid in the forest, but invisible until your foot presses the leaves. Your choices may not change the structure of the universe, but they awaken parts of it. They light up the path, like a spark moving through dry grass, not creating the fire, but revealing it. The equations don't command, they whisper. They tell you what can happen. It's not what must. And in that space, between possibility and certainty, you live. There's another idea too, in quantum physics. The future and the past can be linked, not by cause and effect alone, but by something called time-symmetric boundary conditions. This means the outcome of an event could be influenced not just by what came before, but by what comes after. Imagine a particle deciding how to behave based not just on its history, but on its destiny. This isn't science fiction. It's real mathematics, explored in interpretations like the two-state vector formalism, where quantum events are shaped by conditions at both ends of time. The future leaves fingerprints on the present, softly, silently, just enough to wonder if your instincts, your dreams, your sudden choices are not only echoes of the past, but pulls from what lies ahead. Not fate, but invitation. Not a chain, but a thread. It's the difference between being pushed and being drawn, between being trapped and being called. When you think about the future, you imagine reaching toward it. But what if it reaches too? What if the reason you feel pulled toward certain people, certain ideas, certain dreams, is because those futures are already part of the structure? What if you are not chasing meaning, but slowly aligning with it? This is not a conclusion. It is a question, a soft place to rest your thoughts. Because if the equations of physics hold no arrow, no bias, no now, then the now you feel is something you co-create with your mind, with your choices, with your breath. And that creation, that act of being here, may be the most powerful force of all. It gives life to the numbers, motion to the stillness, story to the structure. You are not a passive observer of time. You are its participant, its interpreter, its witness, and maybe its mirror. Because if the future is waiting quietly, patiently, then each moment you live is a step toward a place that has already made space for you. The math won't tell you what to feel, but it allows this, a future that welcomes you, a moment that was always there, waiting for the shape of your breath to arrive. Take a pause. Let this idea rest with you, because in the stillness that follows a deep thought, something else stirs up. Memory, or is it imagination? A backward glance, or a forward step? Let's follow that question as we move into the next mystery. It's a place where your own mind reaches across time. The place where memory and imagination become indistinguishable. Where the flow of time is shaped not by the stars, but by the stories inside you. Close your eyes and recall a moment from your childhood. You might see a face, hear a sound, or feel the texture of light on a wall. But here's the gentle twist. You are not remembering the moment. You are rebuilding it, like a painter restoring a fresco from faded traces. Your brain reconstructs what once was, filling in the gaps, adjusting for emotion, smoothing the edges. Memory is not a photograph. It's a process, a living act. And here's what's quietly astonishing. The very same parts of your brain that help you remember the past also helped you imagine the future. Your hippocampus, that curled seahorse in your brain's depths, isn't just a vault for memories. It's a theater of time. Neuroscientists call this phenomenon mental time travel. When you remember a day long gone, or picture a day not yet arrived, you activate the same neural networks. You are rehearsing life in both directions. And what this means is startling. Your sense of time, your idea of who you are, isn't a timeline. It's a loop, a breathing, living feedback loop between memory and imagination. Each time you revisit a memory, you're not just opening a file, you're rewriting it through the lens of who you are now and what you quietly hope to become. And each time you imagine the future, you do so not with raw invention, but by assembling bits and pieces of your past. The couch from your grandmother's house might appear in a vision of your dream apartment. A word someone whispered 10 years ago might echo in a story you haven't lived yet. You are not a passive observer of time. You are a weaver. You stitch together the past and the future to form a self. And that self, the one you wake up into each morning, is shaped as much by hope as by history. There's something called the default mode network in your brain. It lights up when you are resting, daydreaming, reflecting. And researchers have found it's deeply involved in both autobiographical memory and future simulation. In other words, your resting mind loops between remembering and imagining, even when you're not trying, even when you sleep. Even now, you are never truly only in the present. You are always carrying pieces of other times, some tender, some strange, some unfinished. But here's the comforting truth. You do not need to resolve every moment. You do not need to remember everything perfectly. Because the past lives forward through you. It lives in the choices you make, in the paths you take, okay? In the things you dream, and the ones you quietly avoid. Perhaps this is why certain memories feel heavier. It's not because they're more real, but because they are more connected to the future you're building. And perhaps your imagination isn't wild after all, but rather a tool of time, a gentle compass, a whisper from a chapter not yet read. When you picture your future, you are creating possibilities, not certainties, not scripts, but potential pathways for the self you are becoming. And your brain rewards this. When you imagine a joyful event, a reunion, a success, a quiet moment by the sea, your body responds as if it were real. Heart rate slows, stress decreases, endorphins bloom. This is not illusion. This is participation. You are shaping your reality through imagined time. And in this, there is healing. For some memories are wounds, not just moments of pain, but stories your mind replays, each time reinforcing the narrative. But imagination offers a soft alternative. You can revisit a memory, not to relive it, but to reframe it, to change the lighting, to shift the music, to open a window in the room that once felt closed. You are not rewriting the past. You are reclaiming your place within it. Memory, like time, is not fixed. It is fluid. But this fluidity is not a flaw. It is your greatest gift, because it means you are never trapped. You are never done. You are always becoming. And what of nostalgia? It's that aching sweetness that wraps itself around certain memories. It is not just longing. It is direction. It tells you what matters, what you loved, what you wish to carry forward. Nostalgia is a compass made of feeling. And feeling, in this slow science of self, is a form of navigation. Perhaps that's the real flow of time. Not clocks, not calendars, but memory and imagination braiding into story. Your story, which is still unfolding. There's a question physicists and philosophers often ask: why do we remember the past, but not the future? The technical term is the asymmetry of time. But what if the answer is simply this? Because the future is still inside you. It is not yet external. It lives in dream and possibility, in instinct and desire. You can't remember it, but you can feel its shape, like heat rising before a fire, like a song you've heard once in a dream. Your memories are not anchors, they are sails. They catch the wind of the future and help you move. And your imagination is not escape. It is arrival into a version of yourself that already exists in potential. One you can choose to meet, not all at once, but slowly, gently, like a morning tide returning to shore. So the next time you remember something a childhood scent, a phrase someone said, a laugh that caught the air just right, pause. Ask yourself, what future might be speaking through this? What haven't you lived yet that is sending ripples backward? What part of you is being pulled forward through a memory's door? Because if your mind truly links what was with what might be, then every memory is also a seed, and every dream is a kind of remembering dot. Rest with this. Let your breath carry it, because in the final chapter ahead, you'll ask the question that has been quietly waiting all along. Are you being pulled forward? Not by force, not by fate, but by something softer, by time itself, remembering its own future through you. You've been taught to think of the future as something distant, an empty place, unformed, waiting for you. But what if you're not walking toward the future? What if it's reaching back toward you? You drift through life with choices and pauses, with detours, desires, and deep instincts. Some things you plan, others you feel. It's moments that don't quite make sense in the present, until years later, when something clicks, and you wonder, was I preparing for this all along? There's a softness in that thought. It's a possibility that life isn't random, but patterned. It's not dictated by destiny, but gently steered by something. In physics, We're told time has direction, an arrow always pointing forward. Entropy increases, ice melts, waves crash, we age. But some equations, especially those that rule the quantum and the cosmic, don't care which way time moves. They work both forward and backward. And that symmetry leaves a question open. If the past influences the present, could the future shape it too? This isn't science fiction. It's a legitimate inquiry wrapped in math, philosophy, and wonder. It's called retrocausality, the idea that future conditions might influence present ones in the quantum world. Particles sometimes behave as if they know what's coming. Experiments have shown outcomes that seem to be affected by measurements made after the fact. It doesn't break causality, just bends it, like light through a lens. In what you experience day by day, those flickers of intuition, those gut feelings, those sudden pulls in one direction or another, maybe it's not coming from your past. Maybe they're coming from your future. Maybe the self you're becoming sends quiet instructions to the self you are now, not in words, not in visions, but in feeling, a nudge, a knowing, turn of the head, a pause before speaking, a choice to stay a little longer or to finally leave. We call these moments instinct, but maybe they are echoes, the future, remembering itself. And what is a dream, if not this? When you sleep, your mind wanders, painting with images and emotions, okay? But in some dreams, there's clarity, a sense of message. You dream of water, to wake with a decision. You dream of someone long gone, remember something you needed to heal. The logic of dreams doesn't follow your daily mind, but it might follow something deeper, something directional. You've also felt it in art, a poem you read at just the right time, a painting that made you weep for reasons you couldn't name, a song that felt like it had been waiting for you. Why? Maybe because it had, because your future self had already heard it and left you a breadcrumb. Like gravity doesn't just pull things down, it shapes the path they fall along. The future might not drag you forward, but it might sculpt your trajectory. The way valleys form rivers, the way roots grow toward water they haven't touched yet, the way a tree somehow grows toward light. It doesn't know where the sun is, it doesn't measure it, but it feels something, a direction, possibility, and moves. You are more like that tree than you realize. You grow toward what you can't yet see. You turn toward the sun before it rises. You reach for futures, not because they are logical, but because something in you already knows. There's comfort in thinking that life pulls you forward. It means you don't have to force every step. You don't have to map every path. You can trust the gentle tug, the tiny yes, the quiet no. Sometimes you do things that make no sense now, but will one day form a bridge. You study something out of curiosity. Years later, it becomes your calling. You move to a city with no clear reason, and there your whole story begins. You let go of someone, and it opens a door that couldn't open while they were holding it shut. These aren't coincidences. They're coordinates planted not just by the past, by the future. We call it hindsight. But what if we could feel it in the present? Not as certainty, not as prophecy, but as trust. You don't need to know where you're going to know that you're going somewhere, right? Because the future isn't a fixed point. It's a field. It's a field of probabilities, of soft possibilities. And some of those probabilities are already entangled with you. In the quantum world, this entanglement means two particles can be connected across space and time. Change one, and the other responds instantly, without communication, without delay. Now imagine you and your future, self-entangled, each shaping the other, each sending signals the other cannot explain, but deeply understands. You are not waiting to become that future version. You are already in conversation with them. Your decisions now shape who they are, okay? And their existence shapes who you are now. This is more than metaphor. It's a new way of seeing time, not as a one-way street, but as a dialogue. And in that dialogue, you can relax. You can let go of the pressure to figure it all out, because some part of you already has, and it's guiding you, not with maps, which with magnets. So when you feel something pull you toward a story, a project, a place, a person, don't dismiss it. It may be your future, gently remembering you and calling you home. Maybe this is the softest truth of all. You're not falling into the future. You're being drawn by gravity, by memory, by potential, and by the deepest part of yourself, the part that already knows where you belong. So breathe, rest, and listen, because the next moment is arriving, not rushing, not demanding, just arriving. And in its quiet unfolding, you may find a version of yourself you've always been slowly becoming. Welcome them. They've been waiting, and they are here. In the silence between seconds, in the breath you're about to take, in the dream you'll drift into soon, because time, like you, doesn't just move forward. It remembers. Asterisk. Asterisk. Good night. Dot 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 dot.